My mom said that she heard me scream and she ran into my room and I was on the floor. Couldn't say anything, but he's been shot. He's been shot.
Welcome to More Than an Inmate's Girlfriend. I'm your host, Jay. Welcome back for another episode. This week I want to start and open up with the question, have we ever questioned the media and what they're reporting? Have you ever had an experience where you feel that maybe the media was exaggerating or maybe they got some of the details wrong? Just for perspective's sake, in knowing what I went through, I was in a school shooting as a teenager, and while we were on lockdown, the media, which we had access to the computers, we didn't have access to our phones, and on the computers they were saying one thing about what was happening, and really it was a complete opposite. So they didn't have the right information. They were pushing out information that was inaccurate, scaring us and making us fearful for our lives, when in fact the shooter had been unalived many hours prior and there was nobody else in the building, but they made it sound a different way. And to me, that was eye-opening and shocking. And for the first time I thought, wow, like the media is not telling the truth. This is scary, because I've never experienced that before. Well, our next guest, Claire, has had an experience with her and her loved one, and it's twofold. The first one is that he is saying one thing and the media is saying something completely different. So Claire is here today to clarify her side and his side of the story, because it's being portrayed very differently. The other thing that she's here to talk about, which I think is very interesting, is the fact when someone who has a history of crime all of a sudden becomes the victim and the perpetrators don't have a history of crime. And how once you're a criminal, you're always a criminal, and you carry that logo on your forehead and you're automatically not believed. You have to fight twice as hard to get the justice that you deserve, because you won't get it immediately because of your record. So I thought that was a really interesting topic as well. Keep in mind, our interview with Claire happened many months ago in the spring or end of the winter. So there could have been a lot going on since then. She did say in this interview that the next court date was in December. So we will be following up and we will be looking to see what happens with her. She's a lovely woman. We love her. And their story is really cute. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Hope you learn a little bit about the media and what it's like to be a victim as a felon. So I hope you enjoy it. Welcome, Claire. Thank you so much for joining me today.
So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Let's jump right in. Can you take us back to when you first met your loved one?
Yes, my husband and I first met in 2014. So I was 19 years old and he had just turned 21 years old. Mm-hmm. We met in a bar called Reggie's in Tigerland, which is a really big spot off of LSU's campus for college kids.
Oh, cool. And what were you guys like back then?
I was an undergrad student at ULL, which is in Lafayette, and I was going for my nursing degree. Jake was, I think, living his life to the fullest at this point. He was working, but having a lot of fun in life. I think at that point in life, I was probably more structured, just in the sense that I had a routine and he was just kind of living by the wayside. Mm-hmm. I was in school studying, but I mean, obviously still having so much fun too. But I would say very different places in life. For sure.
Yeah. And so what attracted you to him?
So it's really funny because when we talk about this meeting, he actually saw me first. I actually didn't even catch a glimpse of him until he was like right in front of my face. Mm-hmm. I had been at the bar with some friends and he said he spotted me from across the bar and just knew immediately that he had to talk to me. If you knew my husband, he's a charmer. He's very slick with it. And he walked up to me at the bar and he told me he was going to buy me a drink.
Ooh.
And then we just started talking from there. There was a point where a male friend of my friend's boyfriend tried to kind of cut in and tell him like that I wasn't interested or something. And my husband, even at the time, did not take that very well, being told no.
I love it.
And of course, I had told the other guy, I was like, okay, you don't need to speak for me. Like, I really don't even know you like that. But there was a little bit of a tussle.
Oh my gosh.
That, yes, words were exchanged and threats were made. And I was just like, oh my gosh, let's just diffuse this. And so I pulled him aside and I was like, I'm just going to meet you over in the back, away from the little frat guys that were hanging with my group of friends. It was a very interesting first meeting for sure. After that, we kept talking and it just went from there. We left that bar and went to a different bar. And then we spent the entire night together, just hanging out and doing young kid things, riding around, acting foolish.
Aww.
But so much fun and definitely such a memorable meeting.
Yeah. And then did you guys stay connected for a while?
So we did stay connected for a good while. Back at this time, Snapchat was the thing. So we were big on snapping each other. So we did that. We talked. We texted for a couple months back and forth. We didn't live in the same city.
Oh, okay.
So it was kind of like when I was going out to Baton Rouge, I would text him. And if he was like going out for the night, he would text me. So it was just kind of back and forth thing. But we eventually lost touch a couple months down the line. I think the distance was a fact. My husband seems to think he probably got arrested and lost touch, lost the phone, and then it just fizzled from there.
And then how did you guys just reconnect like that? And when did you reconnect?
So it's so crazy. The reconnection happened by total happenstance. So I had started a new job, and one of the other nurses that worked there and I got really, really close. We just clicked right off the bat. And at the time, I was super single. And I say super single because I was like so painfully single.
Yeah.
Nothing on my plate. Not really thinking about it.
Yeah.
But one day I was talking to this other nurse. She was like, I don't understand how you're single. And I was like, oh, you know, that's just what it is.
Yeah.
And she was, oh my gosh. So a day or two later, she came and was like, oh my God, I have the perfect person to set you up with. And I was like, oh, really? And I am going to be honest, I was not really big on being set up on blind dates. It just kind of gave me the ick for some reason. I think the Tinder horror stories, I wasn't big on dating apps either.
Okay.
But she was so excited to tell me about this guy she wanted to set me up with. And I was like, okay, give me the rundown. Who is he? What is he about? And essentially she was like, he's this childhood friend of her boyfriend.
Okay.
His name is Jake. He's 28. He's from Baton Rouge. He works in construction. He's so cute. He's funny. She was just convinced that we would hit it off. And I was like, I need to see a picture of this guy first.
Yeah.
And you have to understand, from 2014 to 2022, a lot of life happened, and you definitely don't look like you look at 21.
Yeah, fair.
So when I saw this picture of my now husband, he looks familiar to me for some reason, but I couldn't place it. And then I was just like, oh, whatever. He's so cute. I was like, oh my God, yes, like for sure, let's do it. Funny enough, at the time I was a single mom, so Michelle called me one night and was like, come meet us at this place. It's one of those indoor golf places.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And it was a night that I had my daughter, so I couldn't just pick up and go. So I ended up not going that night when they were out. And later that evening, I got a Facebook DM from Jake saying, "You bailed on me." And I was like, "No, I didn't." Explain to him this was so last minute. I was in a bind with a sitter, and he was just like, "Well, we're going to have to reschedule. I want to take you on a date." And that was it. Push comes to shove, and that's just like how we started talking again, really.
You still didn't know at this point that you'd previously met?
No, no, not at all. Neither of us had put it together. He definitely didn't. And while I was like, okay, this guy looks familiar to me, but who knows?
Right.
I had not pieced together that I had a whole little 3 month kind of rendezvous with him 8 years ago.
So when did
So,
it click?
oh my gosh, when we were fully together for a really long time. And the way that it actually clicked, crazy enough, was one day I'm randomly going through my phone, purging stuff.
Yeah.
I had a screenshot of a text conversation, and I was like, who is this I was talking to? And the number was saved under Jay. It wasn't saved under Jake. And I was just like, who is this? So, of course, then I take to the cloud and pull up the whole text message chain. And I'm like, oh my God, this is my husband. And I don't know if it's a thought that goes through many people's heads, but having to go back and read your 19-year-old self try to flirt over the phone
No.
is the cringiest,
Yeah.
most unfortunate thing I've ever had to do. I mean, at the time, my husband was talking like a wannabe thug. I don't even know why I continued the conversation,
Right.
because I was like, and I told him this, of course, I was like, what were you trying to do? Lots of acronyms. And one of my favorite things is now, it's a running joke. He texted me that I was something special, but he said, you is some special.
Oh my gosh.
So now we just have this little inside joke when we're just being kind of cutesy and corny. We just say, you some special.
That's awesome.
But funny enough, this is actually the craziest part of this whole story. So him not realizing that I was me in that story, of course, he will tell you that he has told that story about this mysterious blonde girl that he met at the bar and talked to for months. He has told that story over and over and over again to people, talking about how this was his dream girl. And now we're married.
Oh my gosh, you refound each other.
So I thought that was really full circle and just really sweet that he had been telling his side of the story and I had been telling my side of the story about this random guy and this random crazy period of my life that took place in Baton Rouge. And it turns out we were telling the two sides of the same story. And I think that's really special that it was that pivotal of a moment for both of us.
You really don't hear that ever. What a unique story. That's so cool.
I know.
For whatever
it's a hallmark.
reason. Yeah. For whatever reason, it wasn't the time then. And then you guys reconnected. So.
Right. No, totally.
Yeah. Going back to that. So you went on the blind date, obviously. Eventually. You went and saw him.
Yes. So actually, before I ended up going on the blind date, we took another little break because we still didn't live in the same city. He was living about an hour away from me. It was fine. So we were talking back and forth, but we never got together. We never hung out. I think between my nursing schedule and his work schedule and the fact that we both had kids, it was just hard. And so it ended up not happening until he reached out to me one day and was like, hey, look, I think I'm going to give it another try with my baby mama. And he was very honest about it. He was like, I think I just owe this to my kids to like try again. And obviously, having been married previously, I totally understood. And I was like, by all means, do what you need to do. I wish you the best. We stopped on really good terms of mutual respect and wanting the best for each other.
Yeah.
So he went and tried to do his thing. And then about 4 months later, I got a text that just said, well, I'm single again. And he took me on our first real date.
Wow.
And that's when we finally got together and spent the time getting to know each other. We had had the conversation, we had had the talking communication, but never the physical time.
Right. So you hit it off right away.
Oh my gosh, yes. We absolutely hit it off. Day one, date one. It was honestly the best first date I've ever had in my life. And honestly, I think that's why it'll be the last first date I ever have in my life. It was definitely not your typical first date, but I don't think anything we do is typical.
Yeah.
And I love that. I think that it's very telling of who we are and our relationship and everything to have this unique story. But yeah, we hit it off right away. I think the fact that we had built a friendship when we had talked so much before, there was no awkwardness, there was no silence. If you know my husband or I, it's very hard to find some peace and silence. But between what we had, there was no shortage of anything to talk about. And I think the thing that was really just so different than anybody I dated in the past is he just was so brutally honest about everything. And we kind of started dating at a time in our lives when we were both really going through some tough stuff. And I think that's a way that we clicked even more. Was maybe it's trauma bonding. I don't know. Maybe it's just being there for each other and like supporting each other. But it was definitely special.
And at that point, did you know at all about his criminal history? Because we were joking before about when you were kids and he probably got arrested, but did you have any clue?
Date one, he told me everything about everything. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? It's like he did not have to be so honest with me on the first date, but he was. He told me the good, the bad, the ugly, just probably way more than I probably wanted to know at the time. But I think his honesty about everything is what really brought our comfortability with each other to a whole different level.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like my husband, obviously we'd met in very different circumstances, but my husband was so vulnerable and I was like freaked out almost about how honest and vulnerable he was. Like men don't do this.
Right.
Yeah.
When I tell you he brought out the childhood trauma, he brought out all the stops when it came to everything he told me about. And I really was like intimidated at first because it was just so out of the ordinary.
Yeah, for sure.
It was really just totally new and different to me. But obviously I think I needed new and different because obviously it works out for a reason.
Yeah. Had you ever dated anybody who'd been incarcerated before?
Yes, I had. So actually my first husband had a little bit of a past himself. And then funny enough, in between my ex-husband and my current husband, I actually dated a cop.
Wow.
And that was not the move. That was not the move. I'm going to stress that so much. That was not for me.
I'm so curious. It must be so different.
Oh my gosh. Well, it is just so funny because to be honest, I think people who have had run-ins with the law are more respectful of it than people who haven't. And I think the thing that I experienced with dating somebody in law enforcement was the fact that they really don't care and they think things don't apply to them. And that's scary to me.
Really?
So, yeah. And I'm not saying all law enforcement officers are like that, but I think there were a lot of reasons we didn't work. And obviously, thank God a lot of those things came to light.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I went from felon to cop to felon.
Wow. So obviously you weren't intimidated by his record because you've dated someone has a record before.
Well, I shouldn't even classify my ex-husband as a felon. He did not have the history my current husband does, for sure.
Okay.
It was like a singular episode compared to multiple prison sentences.
Yeah.
We've had a couple mugshots put on the national news, things like that.
Oh, wow.
So it was very different, but I think in general in life, it takes a lot to intimidate me. So the history of it definitely didn't intimidate me, especially since I knew it was all stuff from so long ago.
Okay.
And knowing that he wasn't living that way anymore, that kind of made me more okay with
dating him.
Right.
And so at this point, you didn't really anticipate him ever going back to prison.
No, I never wanted him to go back
Yeah.
to prison. After that first date, we literally were rarely apart. I'll preface that just so we have some background.
Yeah.
We were rarely apart. We hit it off and we were just always together. And I think we were better together.
Yeah.
And he livened me up a little bit maybe, and I kept him grounded in a way that we were just really complementary to each other. And we still are that way. But I just think that the fact that we were together so much made it all more of a shock when the shooting did happen, because it was like, okay, I spent every waking hour pretty much with this person. It was almost like processing a death because he was just gone.
Yeah. So unexpectedly.
So unexpectedly.
You guys are going strong. Everything's going good. You're settled. You're together. Everything's good. And then this happens. So walk me through that day from your perspective.
Oh my gosh, I remember this day like it was yesterday. So crazy. So we had been at his mom's the night before, hanging out at the house. And she lives in a closer suburb of Baton Rouge. We had just gotten a house out here in New Orleans. Okay. But essentially, he had been trying for months and months and months to go to his old house to try to get his stuff back from this ex of his. And he was always met with a lot of resistance. She would just ghost him, ignore him, or tell him to screw off, just pretty much being spiteful. And she didn't want him to have his stuff back. So the next morning came around and I drove out to my mom's house, which is in another closer suburb of Baton Rouge.
Okay.
And I was just hanging out with my family. Him and his friends got the little trailer, hooked up to the truck, and headed out to Baton Rouge, essentially. So I knew where he was going. I absolutely knew. And like I said, we were rarely apart, so we had each other's locations. We were constantly texting. We were very often on the phone, FaceTiming, all the things.
Right.
So I was at my mom's for a while, and he let me know. He was like, we're going to be heading to the house.
Okay.
And I was like, okay. Still hanging out with my family, but keeping an eye on location because I did not feel good about it at all. And I still had a bad feeling. Yeah. I don't know what it was. Call it intuition, God, whatever you want to call it. I had a bad feeling that something was going to happen.
Yeah.
And it gets to a point where I'm in my room at her house and I'm looking and Jake's location is not working.
What?
And so then, of course, I text him, but it's not going through. The texts are turning green.
Yeah.
I'm calling him. He's not picking up. I'm trying to update the location. The location isn't working. At this point, having a full-blown panic attack.
Yeah.
He's just panicking, complete panic. So then I texted his mom, and I was like, hey, have you heard from Jake? He was going over to the house to get his stuff, and I haven't heard anything in a little while.
Oh, my gosh.
And so she called me. And she was like, oh, well, I'm sure everything's fine. He's probably just moving furniture or busy. Right, I'm losing my absolute mind.
This is crazy.
So for background, Jake's mom and dad are divorced.
Okay.
And Jake's dad is remarried and has been for a long time. But his mom and his dad don't talk.
Okay, fair.
So while I am on the phone with his mother, I was telling her, look, I just really don't have a good feeling about this. I don't know why. This is just so weird because even if he was busy moving, his location should be working, his text should be fine, like everything. And in the middle of my saying that, she says, oh my God, Jake's daddy is calling me. And in that moment, I just knew that something had happened.
Yeah.
Of course, I didn't know what had happened, but all I could say was, please call me back and I'm going to try to get through this without crying.
Aww.
I just said, please call me back. And she just said, I will. And she hung up to take the other call. And it couldn't have been more than a few minutes, but it felt like I was sitting there in silence for just a lifetime.
Oh my God.
And she called me back finally. And the only thing I really remember is she just said, he's been shot. And I just said, what? And she just repeated herself, he's been shot. And I truly believe I completely blacked out in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
My mom said that she heard me scream, and she ran into my room, and I was on the floor. And she was, of course, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? And I just couldn't say anything, but he's been shot. He's been shot.
Oh gosh.
And I was just like, Jake got shot. I don't know. At that point, I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
I didn't know if he was dead. I didn't know if he was alive, or I didn't know anything. So that was just a blackout. But I guess like fight or flight kicked in, adrenaline, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was God again. But I just said, I have to get dressed. I have to go to Baton Rouge. Because, of course, I knew all of this took place in Baton Rouge.
Okay.
So, of course, I'm thinking, well, dead or alive, he's going to be at a hospital in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
Threw on clothes. I got in my car. And when I tell you, I made a 30-minute trip in about 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
While I was in the car, his brother called me to let me know which hospital he was at.
Oh, wow.
Once I found out which hospital, I went straight there. When I got there, they had called me again while I was still in the car to say they're not letting anybody see him. There's nothing we can do. We're leaving. And I said, I'm not leaving. So I still pulled up to the hospital anyway, and I ran into the emergency room, and I was screaming. I mean, I'm sure I looked like a hysterical lunatic,
Yeah.
because this was the craziest thing I could ever imagine, and I was just screaming. I said, my boyfriend is here. I need to see him. He's been shot. And, of course, the nursing staff was, no, he's not here. First it was, you can't see him, but then they were like, he's not here. And, of course, I knew why they were doing that.
Yeah.
Being that is my field of career, it's a protection thing at that point. And, of course, he tells me now that he was in the back just asking for me and begging, somebody please call my girlfriend. He knew I was going to be so worried. And he was just begging everybody that he came across, like, please. I was able to get the information that he at least was alive, of course, and not gravely injured, but that he was being arrested. And of course I was like, what? What do you mean he's being arrested? And for what? I'm like, he's the one who was shot, clearly. Mm-hmm. Why, of all people, would he be going to jail?
Yeah.
They didn't give me any answers. Jake tells me they came in, cuffed him to the bed, and told him very little. Essentially, it stems from this ex-girlfriend claiming self-defense, claiming that Jake went over to the house shooting, trying to kill them all. This very odd story of it. Unfortunately, the whole story is just such a mess. It doesn't make any sense. They're claiming self-defense, but he was shot 3 times in the back. It's just crazy to me.
So you're in the hospital, and that's when they tell you that he's actually arrested?
No. So I left the emergency room because they threatened to arrest me, oddly enough. They threatened to arrest me. So I left the emergency room, but I sat in my car in the parking lot for 8 hours. I couldn't leave. I was distraught. So this happened at 9:30, 10 in the morning. And I sat there until after 8 p.m. And then I was just like, well, what can I do? So I called Jake's stepdad and I said, I can't be by myself right now. And he was like, absolutely, you are always welcome here. So I went over there, and all I remember doing was sitting in the recliner in a daze, trying to process everything that happened. And a lot of people were calling me, but for whatever reason, this one number that wasn't saved in my phone was calling me. It's
Okay.
Baton Rouge area code.
Okay.
Was calling me, and I picked it up, and I heard Jake's voice, and he just said, "Baby," and I really just remember like breaking down and crying because I didn't know when I was going to hear his voice again.
Yeah. Wow.
And I just said, "Where are you?" And he said, "They're taking me to jail. This receptionist just let me call you."
Oh my gosh.
And I just remember saying, "Why are you going to jail?" And it was just so hard to have the day that I had and then be hit with that kind of outcome.
I can't even imagine not knowing for so long and then it's I'm going to jail.
Right.
I didn't
I
even
mean, it was
know.
so crazy.
I didn't even know that's protocol, that if for safety reasons they wouldn't tell you if someone comes in with a gunshot wound if they're actually here, which makes
Yeah,
sense. But that's horrifying for
right.
family.
I mean, they do that so that, like, if I was the person who shot him, I'm not trying to go there to finish him off or
Yeah.
something like that.
So that was why they did it. That's crazy. But then they'll notify the
Yeah.
dad, but they won't let him in?
No, nobody was able to see him at all.
Wow. So what actually happened? What did he end up telling you? Are you allowed to tell us?
So he told me, and what I very much believe is absolutely the truth is, he said he got to his house, and you have to understand, he had been going there for months when the girl wasn't home to get some of his things because,
Yeah.
like, we have to remember here, this is his house.
Yeah, exactly.
This is his home in his name. It's owned by his father. She is nowhere on any of the paperwork for this home.
Mm-hmm.
It was his house. So he would go to the house when she wasn't home, use his key for the door, and let himself in, take his things, I will say his belongings, another thing we'll stress. He had been doing this for a while, getting little by little what he could. Then we found out that apparently she had set up some security cameras, right?
Okay.
And every time that he would go over to the house, she would call the cops and say that he was breaking in the house and stealing her stuff. In hindsight, we ended up finding out about all these police reports of him breaking into his own home, which makes absolutely no sense. But yeah, the day of the shooting, though, essentially what happened is when he got to the house, she had changed the lock.
Okay.
And of course, he was like, "What the hell?" So he's then knocking on the door, knocking on the side door, going around the back. So he went around the back of the house, and there are some French doors that are leading into the living room from a sunroom, right?
Okay, yeah.
Essentially, he said he was trying to get into the living room through the French doors. When he turned around, he got shot 3 times in the back. And then, of course, he started running, and that was pretty much it. Essentially, he went there to go get his stuff, and he was shot inside of his own home in the back.
How injured was he? Because obviously he was able to run away.
He got hit in the shoulder blade, lower down around the waist, like around his waistline, and then in the butt cheek. By the grace of God, though, when I was eventually able to get the records from the day of, the doctor who released the records to me let me know that he couldn't explain it other than a miracle, that he is not either dead or paralyzed.
Wow.
Because of the places where he had been hit, one of the bullets, had his shoulder blade not been in the exact position it was in, it would have gone through his chest, and the doctor said Jake would have been dead before he hit the ground.
Wow.
And then the other one that's a little lower, that hit him a little lower down in the back, was so close to his spine, he could have been a paraplegic.
Wow.
The only one that really wasn't an issue was the one that hit him in the butt.
And so obviously he gets surgery or whatever, and then he goes to jail. And then you talk to him.
So no, he doesn't even get surgery. He is sent to jail with open wounds and bullets in his back. Yes, girl.
They do that?
They sure do. If they think that it is not life-threatening, they will send you to jail with whatever you came with, really. It's terrible.
Wow, I'm shook. That's crazy.
Yep.
And then what happens after that? Does the jail heal you?
Yeah.
Oh my
First of
gosh.
all, healthcare in prisons is absolutely deplorable.
Yeah.
And of course, me with my nursing background,
Yes.
I am so afraid of infection. I'm like, God, you survived a shooting, but watch you die from some
Yeah.
ungodly, unknown infection that you get in a prison.
Hmm.
So
What a
I
mess.
was really worried about that. So that's when I really started advocating for him. Actually, I had absolutely no problem calling the jail and letting them know that these are open wounds and you better take care of them or you're going to have a problem with me. And I will show up. I will show up.
Yeah.
When he would tell me that they're not taking care of it the way that they were ordered to, I would call up there, raise some hell. And yeah, essentially the wounds closed.
So literally in one day your life changed. And
Oh my God. Within really a couple hours,
yeah.
it was always together, just living our lives to just everything was just up in flames.
Yeah. How do you deal?
Oh my God, martinis? No, I think I am really blessed to have some really, really amazing friends
Okay.
who have stuck by me through just obviously the craziest stuff ever.
Mm-hmm.
I have a really amazing family, and there was a period where I just needed to grieve, and I had to give myself that time, that grace, because I don't think I would have been able to do it any other way. But to be honest, the other thing was just having Jake still. Almost losing him
Mm-hmm.
really put things into perspective of like how much a person means to you.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can say it. Like, he really was, and I don't even know. He says I was what kept him strong, but I'm like, oh my gosh, no, you kept me strong. And
Mm-hmm.
it was like we were both doing it for each other.
Yeah. It brought you
But I mean,
closer.
there was a really dark time at the beginning of this incarceration where I could feel him distancing himself from me. I'll
Oh,
say that.
okay.
At the time, I didn't know it, but because I wasn't familiar with jail life. So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that they could call more than twice a day. I didn't know that there were video visits. I didn't know how this went.
Right.
But essentially, what had happened in the past for him when he had gone away to jail is everyone abandoned him.
Yeah.
And the way he tells me is he was thinking that I was going to do the same. I mean, truly, from having been through it before, he was so prepared for me to be like, see you later, not
Yeah.
interested in this,
Yeah.
whatever. And we had this really tough conversation one day on the phone, and he was just like, baby, you shouldn't have to wait for me.
Yeah.
And I said, what? I was like, what are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, that's not fair for you to have to put your life on hold for me. And you have to realize we had only been together for 6 months at this time.
Right.
He was like, we haven't been together that long. He was like, obviously, I love you more than anything, but he kept saying, I don't want anything to happen. I don't want to lose you, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what are you talking about? He told me he didn't want me to tell him that I would stick this out and essentially end up cheating on him.
Yeah, it's a huge fear.
And which makes sense because I later found out that one of the other times that he was incarcerated, the ex-girlfriend had actually slept with a brother of his.
Oh gosh.
So there was a very dark and convoluted reason for him feeling like that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that broke my heart for him because I think it really showed me that he had truly never had anybody just love him and stick with him through everything.
And the saddest
And
part.
I told him, I was like, are you breaking up with me? And he was like, no, but I don't think you want to do this. And I was like, okay, well, then I don't want to hear it again.
Mm-hmm.
I said, we were together when you were out here. We're going to be together while you're in there. And I said, so unless you're breaking up with me, I love you and shut up. Right.
Yeah. Which is so
I was
lucky.
like, yeah.
To
And he really does say that there were times before all of this happened where he knew he wanted to marry me, but he said that day really solidified it for him.
yeah. It's so sad because the more I get to know my husband's friends and their situations and whatever. And the amount of people that just get forgotten is so
It's fun.
heartbreaking. I remember
It's
once,
terrible.
yeah, one of his friends made a comment and said, out of sight, out of mind is real.
So
And
sad.
yeah, and it's large percentages of people. And then you wonder why they
Right.
reoffend. And because they
Absolutely.
don't have stability in their lives, they don't have someone who's going to stick by them. And what you're saying is
Yeah.
just not an anomaly. So
Right.
many of these guys and women will go through that where they just get dropped the second something
Right.
happens.
And he says he's never known loyalty or love or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that before in his life. And
Yeah. So you did decide to get married. Why while he was in jail?
we did. So really, we had been talking about it. So he had asked me to marry him right around Thanksgiving. So less than a month after the whole shooting happened.
Mm-hmm.
He was really like, I want to marry you. Will you marry me? And I was like, duh.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm still here through this, yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
what else am I going to do? So it just ended up being one of those things where he asked me to marry him. And then my mom let me know that she had a family ring for me,
Oh.
which was really special. I was, of course, excited about that because I got to have a ring. Even though he didn't get to give it to me, I got to have a ring that was special and still symbolized the fact that he had asked me to marry him. And we had always talked about, oh, we'll just wait till you come home to do it. And he just called me one day and was like, bring them papers up here today. I'm marrying you.
Oh.
And I was just like, are you for real? And he just said, yes. Do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And that's just
How it went.
as simple as it is. That's just how it happened. So I got all the papers, all the licenses together, and a week later we were married.
Wow. Awesome. I really want to touch base on his past and how it's affecting his case right now. Because I think that that's
So,
so important that people don't
oh yeah,
realize. So,
totally.
talk to me
I
about
will
it.
start out by saying that I think were this somebody with absolutely no criminal history, we'd be in a totally different situation. He probably wouldn't even be in jail. I don't even think he would have been booked on anything. I don't know. I mean, of course, I can't speak to that for sure, but I just think that it would have been totally different. And another thing is, I'll say, in a conservative state, I hate to play like the gender card, but when you have a girl who's very unassuming, pretty mild mannered, claiming all these crazy things against a man who not only has a criminal history, but, my husband is big and tattooed. And when you think of victim in your head, I do not in any case think my husband would pop up
Right.
in anyone's mind.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a good victim.
Right.
I don't think he fits the bill physically, but also obviously on paper, very different. So honestly, I think it's really hard when you have a girl who is not only claiming some really terrible things. I mean, I'm not saying that should a situation like this happen to somebody in reality, that it shouldn't be handled properly. But I think had my husband not had the history, he put it in terms like this, which I love, and I've used it so many times since then. He said, everyone else is innocent until proven guilty. People like him are guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me because I didn't realize how bad it was until we really got into the nitty-gritty of this situation.
Mm-hmm. I know the court case is open and whatnot, but just for everyone to kind of understand, what was he facing in terms of years because of this?
So initially, I will say his charges were 3 counts of attempted murder, home invasion, and let's see what else, child endangerment, because the day of the shooting, one of his children were present, and a felon in possession of a weapon. So we started out with some major crazy charges. Obviously, it still never made sense to me how he was facing attempted murder charges when he was the one who got shot,
Yeah.
or how he was facing a home invasion charge when it was his house.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of just craziness. But obviously, attempted murder carries like a 15 to 20-year sentence. So
Right.
we were facing some real serious time in the very beginning. Before we really got into it and the lawyers started fighting, we were really looking at possibly a 30, 40 plus year sentence.
Wow. Over this.
Yep.
Crazy. What has been the hardest part for you?
You know what? I think the hardest part for me really has been the fact that the people who are responsible for this whole situation, the shooting,
Yeah.
the allegation, it's the fact that they are living their life like nothing happened. Having to be faced with that is really, really difficult because to me, it's just so unfair. You know, not only is it infuriating to see somebody go to court and go to such extreme lengths to lie and just be dishonest, but just the fact that then there are people who, like, it doesn't make sense to me that they're even believing some of the things, because there's just some things that if something doesn't add up, you know, if the math ain't mathing, it ain't mathing.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's, wait, how do you even believe some of these things when other things that have been said directly contradict that?
Yeah.
So it's been really hard knowing that the people that are responsible are allowed to live their life when obviously I'm now living my life alone, and then my husband is living his life in prison.
Yeah. And it also takes it from
yeah,
the actual victims, like you said earlier, that are actually going through these things when
absolutely.
you
It
guys have
really
facts.
is.
There's so much facts
Absolutely.
around it. Yeah.
It's so terribly detrimental to real victims,
Yeah.
having people claim to be domestic violence survivors when that's just blatantly not the case.
Yeah.
I am all for supporting victims and finding them the
Yes.
help that they need and getting them
For sure.
justice. But this just shows victims come in all shapes and sizes, and sometimes they look like a big, muscular, tatted man with a criminal history. It doesn't
Yeah.
always look like the poor little girl who cries a boohoo story.
Yeah. And I think objectivity is very important in
Totally.
law enforcement for that reason. And the things that they're saying in the media, everything that people are getting from the media. What do you want to say to people from your experiences about the media next time they read an article?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things I've learned that the news, whether written news, video news, whatever it is, I have truly learned that they will take and run with anything that anybody spews to them without any base, without any evidence, without anything. It's word of mouth, which I don't know, maybe I was kind of naive in thinking that didn't happen, but I was just blown away at the fact that they'll just take what one person is saying and run with it and smear it all over the news. And I think the thing that everybody needs to know is there are two sides to every story.
Yeah.
And sometimes people are really good at playing the victim and kind of living their life with a victim mentality. And I think some people who might be a little maybe narcissistic or have narcissistic kind of sociopathic tendencies are sometimes the people who are the best at looking like victims. And I saw this thing that a friend shared with me that really hit home, because obviously there are always two sides to every story. And I don't think people should make such harsh judgments until they hear both sides, because that's been our thing. We've really been silent up until this point.
Yeah.
And we've kind of left it at that. But the thing that my friend shared with me is it was just like this little quote that said, "No one plays the victim better than the person who caused the damage."
Oof.
And yeah, I mean, right? That was my reaction. I was like, wow, this really hits home. And
Yeah.
when people have asked us, aren't you going to tell your side of the story? We've always just said, God knows, and that's
Mm-hmm.
enough.
I agree.
And there will be a time and a place for the truth to come out, and the truth is going to set us free.
Yeah.
The truth is going to shed light on everything and the true character of all parties involved.
Yeah.
And well, I think that's just what we rely on and what we place our hope in, is that when the time is right, these things will come to light, and the people who are actually responsible and had bad intentions and had malicious thoughts,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we just know that those things will work themselves out, really.
For sure. I agree. I 100% agree. Just stay on the right track and do the right thing. It'll all work out in whatever way it's supposed to.
Absolutely.
But your case is not done. So you're looking at December, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have been continued to December 1st on
Okay.
2025.
So we will need to
So
do a follow up here because I'm sure people are going to want to
absolutely.
know how it ends.
Absolutely.
So,
Yes. Well, and I think a lot of people are going to be looking for
yeah, follow ups for
when.
sure. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing it. I so appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, my
I
girl. Y'all are
appreciate your
doing so much
time.
good.
Thank you.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you too.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.